At the outskirts of an ancient city, there stood a massive mansion known as the Mansion of Spirits. This mansion was the subject of many terrifying stories, with locals claiming it was cursed. Whoever lived there would either go mad or disappear. Despite these stories, a wealthy businessman named Martin Blackwell decided to purchase the mansion and renovate it, hoping to restore its former glory. In the summer of 2020, Martin moved into the mansion with his wife Elizabeth and their young daughter Clara. The mansion was breathtakingly beautiful, with marble pillars and golden accents, but it felt cold and lifeless. From the first night, Elizabeth began hearing strange noises in the walls, whispers and faint laughter. Martin, however, dismissed it as mere imagination, thinking it was the effect of living in such an old place. As the days passed, the mansion's atmosphere grew more unsettling. Doors would open and close on their own, and mirrors reflected distorted images. One night, while Clara slept in her room, Elizabeth heard childish laughter echoing through the walls. When she entered Clara's room, she found her daughter awake, talking to an unseen presence. "Who are you talking to?" Elizabeth asked. Clara smiled innocently. "My new friend. He's lived here for a long time." The strange occurrences became more frequent. One night, as Martin worked in his study, a ghostly figure of an old man appeared before him, glaring at him with eyes full of rage. Martin tried to scream, but no sound came out. The ghost pointed toward a corner of the room, where Martin later found an ancient book filled with incantations and cryptic symbols. While living in the mansion, Elizabeth discovered a set of old diaries hidden in the basement. These diaries belonged to a family that had lived in the mansion centuries ago. They recounted a tragic story of dark rituals performed to summon and control spirits. But the rituals had gone horribly wrong, and the spirits turned into vengeful entities. Martin and Elizabeth realized that the mansion was trying to warn them, and the trapped spirits sought revenge on anyone who lived there. One night, the ground began to tremble, and the doors sealed shut. They tried to escape, but the mansion had become a labyrinth. In a horrifying moment, they saw Clara speaking to an invisible entity, and her smile was unnervingly sinister. They couldn't escape, and the next morning, the mansion was found abandoned. The police found no trace of the family. Once again, the Mansion of Spirits stood empty, but locals claimed they still saw strange lights coming from its windows at night, and ghostly voices echoed from within. One day, a group of friends decided to go on an exploratory trip to a remote forest. Everyone was excited about the new adventure, but they had no idea what awaited them. While wandering, they stumbled upon an old, abandoned house deep within the trees. The house looked as if it had been deserted for decades, with shattered windows and doors overgrown with weeds. After a lengthy discussion, the friends decided to enter the house. The atmosphere inside was strange, filled with the smell of mold, and the walls were covered in dust and spiders. As they explored the rooms, they noticed oddities, such as old photographs hanging on the walls that seemed to watch them. While wandering upstairs, they began to hear whispering sounds coming from the lower floor. They initially tried to ignore it, but the whispers grew louder, sounding like weak calls for help. One of them decided to investigate the source of the noise while the others stayed behind. As he descended to the lower floor, he felt an eerie presence surrounding him. Suddenly, a dark shadow appeared before him, resembling a woman in an old-fashioned dress. He screamed and rushed back upstairs, telling his friends what he had seen. However, they didn't believe him at first, thinking he was imagining things. They wanted to leave the house, but when they went to the door, they found it firmly shut. They tried to open it, but couldn't. At that moment, they began to hear loud laughter and screams coming from the darkness. The lights flickered, amplifying their fear. After desperate attempts to find an exit, they decided to climb to the roof. As they headed for the stairs, they heard heavy footsteps approaching them. Fortunately, they managed to reach the roof, but now they were trapped. The friends remained there all night, hearing strange sounds and stories about the spirits haunting the house. The next morning, a rescue team found them, and they appeared shaken and frightened. After that experience, the friends never spoke of that night again. They believed the house held terrifying secrets and felt lucky to have escaped. However, some of them think they are still being watched by that spirit and that it will haunt them forever. In an old, luxurious manor located in the English countryside, there was an ancient massive mirror known as the Mirror of Shadows. Crafted in the 18th century by a mysterious sorcerer, it was believed to have the power to reveal hidden truths, but those who gazed into it for too long might never see themselves again. In 2020, the Harrison family bought the manor along with the antique furniture that came with it. The mirror hung in the grand hall, covering nearly half of the wall with its imposing presence. The family consisted of James, the father, his wife Laura, and their 15-year-old daughter, Kate. From the first day, Kate felt that something was strange about the mirror. Whenever she passed by, she had the unsettling feeling that her reflection was moving out of sync with her, as if it had a mind of its own. On the first night after moving in, Kate started experiencing vivid nightmares. She dreamed of being trapped inside the mirror, helpless as dark entities surrounded her. With each passing night, the dreams grew stronger and more disturbing, until they began to affect her mental health. One day, while sitting in front of the mirror, Kate noticed that she wasn't just seeing her own reflection. The shadows in the mirror began to coalesce, forming vague, ghostly figures. When she tried to back away, she felt an invisible force pulling her toward the glass, as if it were trying to swallow her whole. As the days went by, the other members of the family began experiencing their own strange encounters with the mirror. James, who had initially dismissed his daughter's fears, woke up one night to find himself surrounded by distorted reflections in the mirror. He saw twisted, horrifying versions of himself staring back at him, their eyes filled with malice. Laura, on the other hand, started hearing voices coming from inside the mirror. At first, the voices were soft whispers, but soon they turned into angry, desperate screams. A woman's voice begged for help, claiming she had been trapped inside the mirror for centuries and needed someone to set her free. In a desperate attempt to understand what was happening, the family called upon Dr. Richard Adams, a researcher of paranormal phenomena. After examining the mirror, Dr. Adams confirmed that it contained a powerful, ancient magic, and that it acted as a gateway to another, darker world. He warned the Harrisons not to try destroying the mirror, as it could unleash the spirits trapped inside. Instead, he advised them to leave the house immediately and abandon the mirror. Before they could escape, the mirror had already claimed Kate. One night, as the family slept, Kate was drawn to the mirror, almost as if she were under a spell. By morning, she was gone, her body nowhere to be found. All that remained were the faint handprints she had left on the mirror's surface. James and Laura, devastated, tried to smash the mirror, but no matter how hard they tried, it remained unscathed. Eventually, they left the manor, abandoning the cursed mirror to its dark fate. What they didn't know was that Kate was now trapped inside it, watching anyone who dared come too close. The Bell Witch haunting is one of the most well-known horror stories in American history, where a family experienced years of supernatural terror by a spirit known as the Bell Witch. This story presents a significant challenge even to the most skeptical researchers. In the early 19th century, the Bell family settled in Tennessee, living a simple and prosperous life. However, in 1817, strange occurrences began in their home and on their farm. It all started when the father, John Bell, spotted a strange animal in his field, resembling a dog with a rabbit-like head. He tried to shoot it, but it mysteriously vanished. After this incident, a series of terrifying events unfolded in the home. Loud banging on the walls was heard at night, and strange whispers in an unknown language echoed throughout the house. The family began to feel an invisible presence, sometimes touching them or pulling their blankets as they slept. Over time, the spirit became more aggressive. The youngest daughter, Betsy Bell, was the most affected, suffering from attacks where she was slapped and choked by unseen forces. The family invited friends and neighbors who also witnessed the strange occurrences, including hearing terrifying voices and seeing objects move on their own. The mysterious spirit often spoke, claiming to be Kate Batts, a neighbor with whom the Bell family had a long-standing dispute. The spirit declared that it had come to torment John Bell due to an old feud and exhibited a deep hatred toward him, vowing to take his life. In 1820, John Bell began suffering from a mysterious and unexplained illness. He experienced severe convulsions and intense headaches. One night, he was found dead, with a vial of poison next to him. The spirit claimed responsibility, boasting that it had poisoned him. After John Bell's death, the supernatural activities in the house decreased significantly. However, the story didn't end there. The spirit promised to return after 107 years. To this day, the Bell Witch haunting remains a topic of fascination, with many attributing strange phenomena in the area to the lingering spirit.